There's a light mood, but a very serious message. We can't make time for God because everything belongs to Him. He owns us. Just like tithing is not ours, it's His. Because everything we own is His actually. And as we start this time, we start with the word intimacy. The word intimacy is defined, as you have in your handouts, a state of having a very close relationship. It is a very personal, private association marked by a very close association and friendship. The key words here you want to mark it are relationship and friendship. They are words that are losing their meaning in today's cyber age. I was told of a young man who has 2,508 friends in his Facebook account. 2,508. I could not seem to reconcile that with the scripture that says that a man of many friends will come to ruin. When we talk about intimacy, many thoughts and associations come to mind, most of which we do not give the real essence. We do not see the real essence of the word intimate. In fact, we get uncomfortable just mentioning the term because more too often we associate it with something even sexual, something lustful when we talk about intimacy. Are you intimate with your girlfriend? Are you intimate with your wife? And immediately the thought was something that has to do with just the physical intimacy. We are at a loss for words when we try to bring it into a tangible, into an actual expression of the word intimate. Yet, God has created us for intimacy. You can write that down if you want. God has created us for intimacy. We were created to be intimate. The whole essence of the covenant with God is about intimate relationships. 1 John chapter 1, verse 3. Remember, 1 John, 2 John, and 3 John were written during the rise of the Gnostic era in early Christianity. John was trying to correct a knowledge of the people then. And he was saying that there's nothing wrong with the physical fellowship that we have. And so he writes, what we have seen and heard, we proclaim to you also, so that you too may have fellowship with us. That's intimacy. And indeed, our fellowship, our intimacy, is with the Father and with His Son, Jesus Christ. To become intimate with God is to gain the means, to have the way for us to constantly manifest the image and the likeness of God within us. We teach in the academy, we all know, we've been taught in this church, and we say we were made in the image of God, and we are like Him. What does it mean? How does it work? How relevant is it? How can we make it work today for us? How can we intimate with Him work so that the image and likeness of God can be seen? In Exodus chapter 34, just a portion of this is a nice, good story, but I just took a portion because of time. This is talking about Moses. The pronoun he there is Moses. So Moses, was there with the Lord how long? 40 days and 40 nights. That's a long time. It's almost 6 weeks. He did not eat bread or drink water. And he wrote on the tablets the words of the covenant, the 10 commandments. This is the heart of God, the law. And it came about when Moses was coming down from Mount Sinai, and the 2 tablets of the testimony were in Moses' hands as he was coming down from the mountain, that Moses did not know that his skin of his face shone because he was of his speaking with God. The face of Moses shone because of speaking with God. Remember, God is light. The first thing God created was, let there be light. That's the nature of God. In Him is no darkness. So what would we expect to happen to Moses or to any one of us here who spends 40 straight days and nights in His presence? That light would rub off. So the longest I spent in this kind of a scene was 8 days straight without taking anything except water. This was when we were in Malaya in 1983. And that was also the time that I was starting to pastor in San Pablo. As a young 24-year-old, 25-year-old person, so you know how to pastor a church, how you would begin to see it. But having spent 8 days, just 8 days, it was a struggle at first because we're not used in our culture not to have anything to eat. In fact, I had nightmares of McDonald's French fries then. Bagong bukas lang ang McDo sa Recto at saka sa Greenwich. Kaya the first time na nakatikim kami ng McDonald's French fries, yun ang pinapaniginipan ko ng time na yun. First 2 nights, yung pinakat yung fries na kaya inuusok-usok pa. Hindi yung nakakain mo. The stomach was growling. But we were able to endure and go through that. And after the 8th day, when we broke camp on Sunday morning, I went back to San Pablo. I could just sense the power of God in life. Why? Because that's what happens. It's the result of intimacy with Him. In Psalm 17, verse 15, the psalmist said, "As for me, I shall behold your face in righteousness. I will be satisfied when I awake that I am like you, Lord." Ayos na sa akin yun, Lord. Sold na ako doon. When I awake, when I am aware, I am like you. Is that our goal in life? Is that our passion? In Mark chapter 3, verse 13 and 14, Jesus went up the mountain and He summoned those whom He Himself wanted. Handpicked yan, Jesus. And they came to Him. And He appointed 12. For what reason? Naka-underline yan, naka-italics. So that they would be with Him. That He could send them out to preach. So that they would be with Him. That's our first calling, to be with the Lord. It's not so much that we're not called to do other things. We are. Our first calling is to be with Him. That's why many people will always tell me, and I've seen this, I have yet to see a man successful in ministry that does not start the day with God. You see, before I tried to make a substitute. I tried to do my quiet time at night. But I realized it doesn't work. First hour of the day, when I say hour, it's not literally 1 hour. The first moments of the day is with God. That's what will make a difference in our lives. intimacy with Him. Now, these 12, if we look at Acts chapter 4, verse 13, many years or sometime later, now as they, the Pharisees and the Sadducees, observed the confidence of Peter and John and understood that they were uneducated and untrained men, they were amazed and began to recognize the whole secret of their ministry and power was that they were having been with Jesus. How did the disciples recognize? Not by their great exploits or credentials, not by their resume. They were recognized as men who have been with Jesus. That was their identity. That was their ID. As they began to act, to react like Jesus. They began to speak like Jesus. They began to think like Jesus. They began to look like Jesus. See, spending time with God makes a difference in our lives. We learn to appreciate Jesus. We learn to appreciate God. Commune with Him. We learn to enjoy. That's like this video earlier. It was not some tedious thing that as if like we owe God something. It becomes a joy. It becomes a pattern. Like we enjoy it. And Jesus said, "My life for yours, so that your life will be mine." We begin to acquire a manner of life that directly comes from God. And remember this simple formula. Your success in life is equal or proportionate to the degree of your intimacy with God. Remember, success is not measured by how many diplomas you have. Success is not measured by how many cars or how many properties you have. That's accomplishment. Hindi yung success. Accomplishment yun. Na-accomplish mo yun. Nakatapos ka. Nakapag-doctorate ka. Accomplishment yun. That's not success. Success is always defined by this. God defines success, not the world. And our success in life is only to the degree of our intimacy with God. I read from an article, a certain group of skiers, skiing. We don't have that here. And the closest I was just trying on a pair of skis. I've never tried to ski. I tried a pair on skis with that handle that they have. I've never really experienced it. But this certain group of skiers was not like many other skiers. This group that I read about was composed of blind people. Mga bulag. So if it's difficult to ski while having a good pair of eyes, imagine skiing while you are blind. To be deprived of your sight is another thing. It is next to impossible, probably. But there are men who can do it, as this article testified. They slide down a mountain slope with no means to see what lies ahead. The secret, according to this article, is the presence of a trained guide who communicates with each skier. They have developed a means of communication that will help the skier traverse the course that they need to take. What the blind skier does is he develops the skill to listen and to process the signals that the instructor or the guide would give him. You see, we have a similar predicament like this blind skier. By ourselves, we are blind to the course of life that lays ahead of us. That's why the psalmist says, "Lord, to you I lift my soul. Do not let me be ashamed. Do not let my enemies exult over me. Because none of those who wait for you will be ashamed. Teach me your way, Lord. lead me to your path. Like a blind skier, we are not aware of the perils and dangers and obstacles that lie ahead. Bulag tayo dun eh. We have a guide. The Holy Spirit who knows the way, because He is the way, the truth, and the life. What we need to develop is the ability to listen and process His signals. The communication that He gives us. Learn to respond to it. This comes with intimacy. Like the blind skiers, we have been blessed with a powerful ability of insight. It is an ability that can be developed. A person is not born deaf. A person is born with ability to hear. A baby, a little baby. Marami sa akin nagsasabi pag pinanganak daw bata, hindi nakakita. That's what my mom told me. Or at least someone, the yaya, our yaya told us. Hindi nakakita yung bata. So when my young brother was born, first Brian, excited ka yung brother. Hindi ba yung nakakita? Actually, nakakita na yan. And yun, nakakita na. Excited ka eh. First time ka nag-brown brother. Sister kasi yung una eh. Medyo hindi pa siya yun na. May kalaro ka na yung brother ka. So I was really drooling over him. And I was trying to make all of these, and I couldn't forget that time, way back in 1962, 63. Yung mga ganyan ako, sabihin, Mon, that was the name of the yaya. Bakit hindi? Bakit ayaw sumunod? Eh, hindi pa nakakita yan. Bakit hindi nakakita na yun? Hindi niya lang napoprocess yung nakikita niya. Nakakarinig na yun. Hindi ba niya alam na distinguish? Hinarinig niya. But that skill, as the child grew up, can be developed. As you can see. He developed the skill of sight and hearing. Anyway, it can be processed, it can be developed. Ganon din po yung hearing God. Hirap tayo ngayon, lahat tayo, no? If we will be honest, ang hirap pakinggan si Lord kasi hindi natin dinevelop. Hindi tayo nasanay. We were trained for 17 years probably in the system of the world to listen to our senses, physical senses. But before that, we already have the potential. See, if the potential or the gift or the capacity is present, remember this, then the skill and the ability can be developed. Kung may muscles ka sa legs, kaya mong maging runner. Madi-develop yan. Kasi nandyan yung muscles. Kung may muscles ka sa arms, kaya mong magbuhat. Pagbuhatin mo nga isang tatlong buwang bata, hindi mo makakaya kasi hindi pa nade-develop yung muscle. If you give, let's say, I give baby Maki, here is 200 pounds of barbell. 2 years old siya, 1 year old siya, ano pa siya sa Merville, maliit bang bata. Ang tawag niya sa akin, Obed. Makalimutan niya, Obed. Kaya niya, pag nakita niya. Bigyan mo ng isang 200-pound barbell, wala. Hindi na kaya ko yun. Pero ngayon, mali 200 pounds, bine-bench press niya yan. Bakit? Na-develop kasi. Right? Lumaki na eh. And na-develop. Because the ability, the gift, the potential is there. The skill is what can be developed. Actually, may ibig sabihin ng cultivate and keep. When God gave back the order. That is what occupying until He comes in. Occupy until He comes means develop the skill God gave you. We can harness that faculty or that gift, and so that we can use it for our benefit. Hearing God. Hearing God is an innate skill in every believer. Built in yan. When God created us, He created us so that we can hear Him. Remember the story of Samuel when he was a young boy? Eli, he was under the tutelage of Eli. And God saw Samuel. Samuel ran. He was a small young boy. And He said, "You called?" Sabi kay Eli. Eli, hindi. Balik na. Go back. Balik si Samuel. Samuel! Takbo na naman siya. Kay Eli. "You call me?" "I call you." And for the third time, finally, Eli had a revelation. That's God. So itong Samuel, anong message doon? Maliit na bata, nakririnig niya ang tinig ng Diyos. From the beginning, a child was already created to hear God. Kaya nga we recommend parents, pregnant women, while they are having their pregnancy, that they or the husband would read the scriptures to the child. The child can already process that. We may not scientifically see that or understand. It happens because God gave that human being a need to hear. Song of Solomon, chapter 5, verse 2. "I was asleep, but my heart was awake." This is a book of intimacy. A voice, "My beloved was knocking. Open to me, my sister, my darling, my dove, my perfect one. For my head is drenched with dew and my locks with the damp of the night." It's a love story, this book. I was asleep. How many of you have, as mothers, natutulog kayo biglang, parang narinig yung anak niyang tumawag, di ba? Tumawag pa si Joey. Parang narinig yung boses niya. Tumawag pa si Mark. Tumawag pa si Ashley. Why? Because there's that intimacy. There's that intimacy. When Abby was born, we stayed for several months in her mom's place. And there were two babies there, Abby and her cousin, Camille. And, they would cry at night. And I, because the bedroom of my parents-in-law was already filled, I slept in the upper bedroom. So I slept alone. Every time Abby would cry, I knew it was my baby. So dalawa nga yung baby. Camille ba yun? It's like this eh. I was asleep. My heart was awake. Pag-iyak, talagang alam mo, iyak. Babagad ako. Kuha agad ng pampers. Sana naman to, kaya kailangan magpigla ng pampers. You all know this. I know your parents. Busy ka na alas 2 ng madaling araw. Sobrang antok mo talagang minsan. Una na pala yung ginagano mo, kala kong anak mo. Kasi masyado kang, talagang gabi-gabi na lang, gano'n na lang eh. Pinapanahan na lang, uy, una niyan, bata na tutulog, umiiyak dito. Diba, gano'n yung natin eh. But we know our child, di ba? We were asleep, but our heart was awake. Kasi intimate tayo eh. Siyempre, lalo na ang nanay. 9 months niya kasama yun eh. Kaya alam niya, pag umiyak ang anak niya, anak ko yun! See, in Luke chapter 10, verses 21-24, it's not in the handout there, but it's in your handout there. Let me just read this. At that very time, Jesus rejoiced greatly in the Holy Spirit and said, "I praise you, O Father, Lord of heaven and earth, that you have hidden these things." Remember, this was the time He sent out the 70, and the 70 went back saying, "Oh, the demons are subject to us." He said, "Rejoice, don't rejoice because they are subject to you. Rejoice that your names are in heaven." And so, ang tuloy ng kwentong yun, He said, "Praise you, Father, that you have hidden these things from the wise and intelligent and have revealed them to babes and to infants. Yes, Father, this was well-pleasing in your sight. All things have been handed over to me by my Father. No one knows the Son, who the Son is except the Father, and who the Father is except the Son. Anyone to whom the Son wills to reveal Him." Turning to His disciples, said privately. Now He's with the people who He is intimate with. who is close to his heart. And he said, blessed are your eyes, which see things you see. For I say to you, many prophets and many kings wished to see the things which you see and did not see them, and to hear the things that you hear and did not hear them. You're blessed. You have the ability to hear from God. It comes with intimacy. And it comes with developing this time, necessary and important time we can spend with Him. You see, developing a listening ear or a hearing ear is just like anything that we have been blessed with. It can only happen if we see it as a vital, necessary, and important aspect of our lives. I'm going to stop here. There's a few things in the notes, so that we'll find time we can continue. I'll ask permission, we can continue this next week. But if not, it's in your notes anyway. But you see, I'd like to end with this challenge to us. Is intimacy with God a priority for you or me? Is it something really important? I remember way back in 1970, they printed the Bagong Lipunan bills. And we were talking about it because that was the time when I was just entering college. And we were talking to an economist or a finance person and said, bakit hindi nila masyadong i-educate ng mga tao? Mag-iiba na pala ng print ng pera. Kailangan alam ng tao yung detalye kung anong gagawin. Sabi ng economist, huwag ka mag-alala. Dahil pera yan, hahanapin ng tao para alamin nila anong gagawin. Dahil sa kanila importante yan. You don't need a lot of education here. Because a person who finds something vital and important, he will find a way to gain knowledge or come to know it. Kung talagang importante sa'yo, hahanapan ko ng paraan niya. Ano nga ba ito? Bakit may bagong lipunan? So, the young ones, hindi nyo alam kung ano yung bagong lipunan. Kung naiinalala niyo kung ano yung bagong lipunan, medyo may edad ka na, ibig sabihin. Alam niyo yun, may bagong lipunan sa pag walang bagong lipunan, hindi pwede pamalit sa ano. So, tuwing kayo sa around, pag nakakangiti at alam niyo may bagong lipunan, alam mo, magulang na yun. Pero it's something that we have. They found it important. And so they knew how to process it, exchange it, and make the money worth using. So the same thing with God. If we really know that spending time with God, we will make time with Him. Kailangan muna i-throw natin yun sa ating puso. I would just like to leave that challenge with us tonight. As an exercise, rather than spend time with the group, let's just spend a few moments. You have your scratch paper, your handout. You can write there. I'd like you to just, because learning the voice of God is a practice. We have to train our senses to learn to hear God. Maybe there's something that you're asking God to show you. Something that you would like God to say to you today. Let's spend a few moments of quiet. And believe me, if you're serious with Him, you would know. I'd like you to write that down. What He's saying. It could be an answer to a prayer. It could be just an assurance. It could just be a love note. Train your heart. Just be quiet. No one talk to anyone. Just talk to God. And listen to His voice. And as you hear, write down what He's saying to you. Write it by faith. Mommy or Father, basta gagamitin ni Lord yung mind mo. Huwag mong isipin na basta na lang lalabas siya. God will use your mind. And you'll begin to see God is saying this to you.